Yeah, definitely trusting those three. All right, joining us now is member of the House Armed Services Committee, Congressman Lance Gooden. Congressman, thank you for joining us.
Good evening.
So from my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but last month the Pentagon put out a $200 million ask, and they've pared it down to an $80 million ask, or billion-dollar ask, under the auspice of, hey, we're not trying to fund anything further. We just want to pay the operational costs for the rest of the year that we've used in this war. Do you think your colleagues there on the left and the right are up for that?
I think our colleagues are going to do the right thing at the end of the day, especially when it comes time to fund the military. And, you know, this war is wrapping up, and I heard the clips you just played. Democrats are terrified that oil prices are going down and that what they've been slamming the president for the last 3 months is no longer going to be a topic of discussion as the American people see prices go down, stabilization in the Middle East, and this deal that they're so critical of, it's only a bad deal if it doesn't work, and I believe it's going to work. The Iranians can't afford not to take it, and assuming all parties keep their end, then we're going to be in a great place this November and prepared to keep the House, and Democrats are terrified of that.
Congressman David Webb here. On the funding issue, and to just a follow-up to Joey's question, are there other needs that have been expressed to the committee, things that we may need to do, including replenishment? That, of course, is something that comes under your committee.
You know, there is, but at the end of the day, we've got right of first refusal with many of our partners around the nation that have orders that they've been working on for years to other nations. If we need those, we take them over. And I hear so many criticisms that we are overextended, that we have no stockpiles. At the end of the day, we produce as we need it to roll off the lines. If we have a lot of aging equipment just sitting around, that's not really beneficial either. But I'm very competent too, but I'm very confident that the military is going to have what they need and that the American people are going to support their members of Congress funding the military. We're not saying we're funding a war here. We're funding the American military, and that's what I believe everyone can rally around.
Congressman, good to have you tonight. I want to switch gears with you and ask you about national security here at home. Authorities are identifying an illegal alien as the suspected ringleader of the terror plot at the UFC, which involved detonating explosive drones to trigger panic and use snipers to fire on the fleeing crowd. Law enforcement has arrested 5 people in connection to that attack, and investigators have identified at least 14 conspirators through their Signal chat group. But we may not be out of the woods just yet because ISIS is now threatening to set fire to World Cup stadiums to cause a stampede. Congressman, I'm curious about your thoughts about this particular case, and also, you know, how concerned should Americans here at home be about rising terrorist threats?
Well, first of all, when you say all these things, I think the Biden open border policies make me think that's where we are. That's why we're here. The chickens have come home to roost. And Democrats for years said the border is not open. Illegals are not coming over from terrorist nations. They said we were all lying when we said terrorists were on the watch list coming across the border. And look where we are now. We're lucky that we thwarted this attack. But who's to say we'll be unsuccessful the next time around? I'm very, very fearful. And Americans should be as well, that the Biden days are still upon us, in the sense that these terrorists that came across the border are still here. We're trying to locate them and deport them. Democrats, of course, are standing in our way. But we're a long way from totally safe, because we're still recovering from the open border days of Joe Biden that we'll pay for a very long time.
You got that right, Congressman. It's really unfortunate that we can't have anything nice without the threat of terrorism, foreign or domestic. But speaking of that, I want to ask you about FISA funding. President Trump is insisting that the Save America Act be tied to it.
We want the Save America Act approved. I'm not going to sign FISA unless it's done.
But Senate Majority Leader John Thune doesn't think the votes are there.
We are doing everything that we can, but it is a function of math. I mean, we are bound by arithmetic in the United States Senate. The votes currently aren't there. We will continue to put the Democrats on the record and insist on votes on this. But if you tried to attach it, for example, to FISA, it would tank FISA. But, and we will look for votes, additional opportunities to get votes on the SAVE Act.
Congressman, the majority leader there was talking about getting Democrats on board. I don't think Democrats are ever going to get on board. And if they're on the record, we know how they feel about election integrity matters. But it's not just Democrats. It's also Republicans. When he talks about the math not mathing, he's not just talking about Democrats. He's also talking about your Republican colleagues in the Senate. Now, President Trump has been very serious about the Save America Act, not only election integrity, but other matters that are tied to that. The American people want it. It felt like it's been dead for the last several weeks, but it feels like the president is very serious about reviving it. How do you think this is going to play out, not only with your colleagues on the left, but your colleagues on the right?
Well, several Republican senators have lost their re-election bids for their failure to help advance this. The American people are not fooled. Republican voters are not fooled. And they're tired of Republican leaders explaining to them why the SAVE Act is such a bad idea. We know Democrats are hypocrites. They required photo IDs yesterday to enter the Obama Center that was opening. You couldn't just show up if you were on the list. You had to show your valid passport or state ID from Illinois or wherever just to get in there and to hobnob with all the A-list celebrities and the Obamas and everyone else that was there. So if it's good enough for the Obamas and their center, why is it not good enough for the voting booth? The American people believe across party lines, across minority and every imaginable group you can think of, everyone believes you should have an ID to enter the voting booth. And no one thinks that's racist. No one thinks that's crazy. It's common sense. And the fact that Donald Trump wants that to happen and he's pairing it with whatever bill must be passed this week or next or whatever week it is crazy to me that folks are criticizing the president for that. It's common sense. I support the president, and the average American who believes in voter ID and election integrity, they support this as well. I hope we pass the bill with the SAVE Act. If I was a betting man, I'd bet the Senate lets us down. But I applaud President Trump for trying, and I applaud my colleagues on the House and Senate on the Republican side that are pushing to get this into law, and I hope we're successful.
But, Congressman, what happens then? Because the president is pretty firm on it, and you're saying that you're not going to bet on it, but then what happens? Do we not get FISA? I mean, it feels like somebody's going to have to give here. I don't know who it's going to be, and I know you don't have a crystal ball, but from your estimation, how is this going to shake out?
You know, I'm very reluctant to bet against the president. I'm also reluctant to bet on the Senate, and those are competing values and viewpoints, perhaps. But I do believe we'll get there. I believe we have to get there. The president knows it's important. And I think at the end of the day, Republican senators are going to have to step up and say enough is enough. If we want to have a fair shot in November and future elections, we've got to protect integrity at the ballot box. Democrats are seeking to steal elections and want anyone and everyone to be able to show up and vote and not prove who they are, all the while requiring IDs at places like the Obama Center opening yesterday. That's insanity, and we can't keep doing the same thing.
All right, Congressman Lance Gooden, House Armed Services Judiciary Committee, thank you for joining us, and thank you for bringing us your insight. We appreciate it.